Like, it's your car.
Like, you know how it works. All right, here we go.
Dance Journey!
With Tracy in LA. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Dance Journey. Today we have Melissa Briggs.
Hi, Tracy. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I feel like you're a famous person because you're such a good ballet dancer, and Melissa's like this person that I've taken a lot of classes with, and I just see her over there dancing beautifully and professionally.
Thank you.
And I'm over here like flailing.
Oh, no.
But I've always kind of seen Melissa from a distance in class, and I always thought you were really quiet. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think I was talking about you to my friend Haley. I don't know if you know her. She's tall and she has long blonde hair. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I think I was talking about wanting to have you on the podcast, but I didn't really know you. And she was like, "Oh, she's so nice. She's talked to me before." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh.
But I never really talked to you before.
So sweet.
But then I think it was mostly at the show when I saw your last performance. And we just ended up talking afterwards, and you're so easy to talk to, and you are so nice. And I was like, yes, I'm going to ask her to be on the podcast.
I'm so glad you did, and I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. And Melissa was just on another podcast, so she's like a pro. So this is like her podcast month or 2 months or something.
It sure is, so it's been a blast.
But yeah, so Melissa and I, we used to take Chasen Greenwood's class together a lot at Westside School of Ballet, and then also she's in Chasen's company, and then Chasen holds open company classes, so I was able to go to those back before I had a day job. So I was seeing Melissa a lot, but mostly from a distance. And then I haven't been to his class in a while, but today we went to his 11:30 Saturday intermediate class. And it felt so good to be back.
Oh, good. I know. It was so nice to see you there.
Yeah. His classes are just so fun. I just love the music. I love the fast pace of it. And you would say you take him how many times do you work with Chase in a week?
It depends on our rehearsal schedule, but on an average week, I would say I take his class on Tuesday when he has open realm class, and then I was going Wednesdays, but I also work outside of realm and dance, so now I don't go Wednesdays, but then I go Saturday.
Okay.
And if we have rehearsal, then I'll see him Thursday too.
Okay.
So at least 3 times a week, maybe 4, depending. We kind of amp up closer to realm performances.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
Otherwise I'm here though taking class 5-6 days a week. If it's not with him, it's with other teachers at Westside.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. What other teachers? I think you take Damien, right?
I do take Damien. It's been a little while since I've taken Damien. Sunday has sort of turned into my rest day, but it's also become kind of a realm day when we are in swing rehearsals. So Sunday changes periodically, but I take Johnny a lot. I take Johnny's class a lot.
Good things about him.
Love that class. Also, just really, I like that too because it's so upbeat energy, kind of like Chasen. So it keeps me motivated and in that mode and flow and all of that. So I take him a lot. I take David when he subs. Sadie. Those are kind of my main people.
Nice. Yeah. And do you take all your ballet classes at Westside?
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
This is my home studio, so I'm here all the time. Mm-hmm.
Do you take any classes that aren't ballet?
Honestly, no, which I really have been thinking about, whenever I get free time in my life, or I just have to dedicate, I'm just going to go and commit and take this class. But, I mean, my degree in school, I went to college for a contemporary, dance performance degree, and that's where I learned, modern and more contemporary dance and elements, and just a whole new world for me. And I feel like I've emphasize still in ballet so much because that's really what I love, but that versatility definitely brings more of that uniqueness and kind of artistry to my own personal style. And I do feel like I would love to just go take a modern class, forget the point shoes, forget the technique shoes, and just kind of let go of that, structure a little bit, because I've been out of it a little.
Yeah.
So I will. It's been on my mind that I'm going to at some point go take a contemporary class.
It's definitely no pressure. I was just curious, but I feel like for someone who is so good at ballet and trained, I would think you don't really have time to take another type of class. But I was just curious, if you do it all every once in a while. But yeah, I did hear recently about a modern class that I haven't tried yet, and I don't remember where it's at. It's at some random studio I never heard of before, but I'm going to send you it once
well,
I
keep
find
me
out.
posted because I would love to, even if it's just every so often,
Yeah.
just being able to get into another, like, headspace.
Yeah.
And just body, you know, because obviously I love ballet and that's what I'm always going to focus on, but it is good for me to still kind of stay in touch with that because I did love it in college. Like, I almost went on, not like a super ballet rebellious phase because I still very much was like, this is my major. But I was, like, so into the, like, I cut my hair really short, and I just was like, I love the socks or, like, the no shoes situation going on. So
Your ballet rebellious
Yep.
phase. That's so funny.
Just a little.
That's such a rebellion. Like, take off these ballet shoes and dance in socks.
Yep.
That's so funny. So, okay, you take a lot of ballet classes. We have some, I'm blocking the sun here and things are falling. But you take a lot of ballet classes at Westside. What else do you do in your schedule? Can you talk about your job a little bit? Or, like, what does your week look like?
So my week is pretty busy. I mean, I'm at Westside 5, 6, maybe sometimes 7 days a week, just depending on realm of things. And then I do Pilates like 3 times a week. And then I also am a therapist. I do movement therapy, but I'm also an associate clinician for the state of California.
Nice.
So I'm kind of doing a dual thing here with that, working on my hours because I'm still in the associate level stage. Actually, I haven't told anybody this yet, so you're going to be the first to know, but I just finished my movement therapy hours.
Oh, nice.
So that's like a huge weight off my back because now in January when they hold their applications, I can apply for my board certification.
Oh,
so
great.
Right now I'm a registered movement therapist, but board certification allows you to do like private practice and have private clients, and you just have more freedom and flexibility to really work and do what you want within that scope. So that's
amazing.
what I'm doing on the outside. So I'm still, working, but now I'm still working on my clinical hours because I need to get that for my like California license.
Okay.
Which will take longer because it's more hours, but I'm like simultaneously
Congratulations.
doing both. Yes, thank
my
you.
roommate is actually a therapist, not a dance movement therapist, but although she does do dance too, so that may happen at some point. But yeah, she's also going through that with the hours and the certification. So I'm trying to grasp it, understand it all, but I kind of get it because she talks about that too. So that's awesome. Congratulations
Thank you so
on
much.
that next
yes,
step.
We're like just one day at a time, one step forward, getting closer. Yeah, no matter what, next year will be like officially applying for my licenses and then just kind of waiting the few months for all that to get processed. And so I'm almost there. It's just kind of the last chunk of hours that every time you plug in your hours, you're like waiting for these numbers to go down because you're getting so much closer.
Oh man, so much hard work in both aspects of dance and doing that. And are you working like every day, most days doing that as well?
I work Monday through Friday, so I see 20 clients a week on average.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's my caseload given, things come up and I don't maybe always see every client every week, but on my case I have 20 people and then I have supervision, so I'm doing 22 hours a week, which, I have to fit around realm and dance, and so most of my hours are in the end of the day, like evening, Monday through Friday. Like I do like blocks of 4. One day I have 6 just to accommodate for the hours I have to do. So definitely, and it's interesting because I'm juggling the 2 hats of like I dance all day and I'm in this mode all day, and then I have to go home and be therapist. And it's, it's still something that I'm like practicing and finding my own footing in as I kind of keep developing my sense of self and like identity within both of like the avenues of work that I do.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Are you applying the dance movement stuff to your therapy already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you probably talked about this on your other podcast, and this one's going to be a different focus, but I still am curious, like, because I don't really know how that works. Like, how do you apply dance in therapy? Like, what does that kind of look like?
So it's not maybe what some people might think of like physical therapy. Like, yes, we are focusing on the body, but we're bridging the gap between the mind-body connection. So we're strengthening that through mental health. Okay. So we're, I'm working with people that are coming in with like depression, anxiety, just other mental health challenges, and we're using movement and it's really all mindfulness. So like breath work, body scanning, just anything you can do to get in touch with your self-awareness, that's what we focus on. So a lot of interactive experiential work is what I do. Like I do part of it, yes, is like the processing, the talk therapy, but I just get people up and moving, because especially if we're coming in, bogged down by like depression, or like we're having heightened anxiety, the talk therapy for a whole hour is not really going to be the best benefit. So I usually save a little room for processing of like 20 minutes at the end, but I just immediately am kind of like, let's check in really quick. We're going to do a body scan, some breath work. Maybe we do some mirroring or authentic movement type thing, depending on what theme we're working on. But I just try to get people like into their bodies kind of quicker, like sooner than later, so they can really start to feel that like on their own. So I am having to be creative all the time with how do I bring the movement therapy into my sessions.
Yeah.
Because some people are very receptive to it. Other people, there's a little resistance, or just kind of like, the expectation of I have to get up and dance in front of you. And it's not about the performance. It's not about the aesthetic. It's the total opposite, actually, of like being in ballet,
That's so interesting, because I never really understood how that totally worked. But yeah, that's really cool. So when did you start deciding that you wanted to go the therapy route?
That, honestly, I feel was sort of a happy accident, because I graduated from my undergrad in 2020, and that was at the, obviously the height and peak of COVID, and I had auditions lined up. I was going to come back home, but all of that was derailed, and I sort of was thinking, well, what am I going to do? Like, I always had thoughts of going back to get a master's at some point, but just maybe not that soon, right after one degree, straight into another. That wasn't really my ideal. But I did have a friend at that time who had just graduated in a movement therapy degree. And so it just kind of piqued my curiosity. I'd never heard of that. I was actually thinking of an MFA, which didn't really later kind of make sense for me, because I already had a BFA. So I was like, I don't think I need both of them. It's kind of equivalent, except with a higher level, as a master's. But so I pretty much applied immediately to this movement therapy program and was like, well, let's just see. Like, I'm going to go for it if stuff starts picking up, because we just had no idea how long COVID was going to last, what things were going to look like. And I ended up going through the whole 2-year program, which was actually great, because then things kind of lifted after that and I got back to dancing. But then I was like juggling these two things, because then I was applying for like my associate number, my registered dance therapy number. And so at that point, it was very quickly that I had to adjust to like, how do I balance dancing and staying in shape, but then I have to prioritize getting this work done and these hours done and maintaining clients. And so
I feel you on that in two different experiences, because at my old job, I had been there for a few years, regular office job, had gotten pretty used to it, and then I started getting more and more into dance and going to dance after work every day and getting really into it and committed and like trying to grow. And then all of a sudden I was like up for this promotion at my job, and I was like, I don't know if I want to take that, because I was actually getting kind of bored at my job. And so because there was no way for me to grow at my job at the time, I was like, I'm just going to get into dance. Then I got so into dance, then all of a sudden there's this opportunity to grow at my job too. And I was like, I don't think I can do both of those things, because I'm going to have to like stay late or whatever. And I just kind of prayed about it and was like, you know what? I think I can do both. So I took that managerial position and still kept going with dance. And then I was trying to juggle everything for like years. And it kind of worked out till towards the end. Got pretty burned out of a lot of things. And then once again, I didn't work the past year, and I was doing this podcast and writing a book and just dancing all the time. And then I had to get a job, but I still want to continue all those things. So now here I am again, like trying to juggle everything. Like now I have a day job again, and I'm doing dance, and I'm doing the podcast, and like I like all of it, but it is hard. Yeah, it's just hard to manage your time. Like you were saying, you have a very strict schedule. Yeah. And it's hard to have any wiggle room. You were saying that before we started shooting.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I definitely relate a lot to what you're saying. And it's just like every day I have to balance like all of this stuff. And, I do love all of what I do, and I do get burnt out. So it's like, how do I also then put my like self-care first and like my mental health first and my physical health first without, because I'm very disciplined just from being a dancer my whole life too, that it's so hard to give myself moments of rest and break, because I'm just such a go person, and I don't always see that for myself, but others in my life will notice and kindly remind me it's okay to slow down and take a day off, and I'm here like I
You're
just
like,
can't.
when
come
am I
to
going
terms
to?
with it.
Yeah. And that's how I feel.
But I have been better. I'd say it's a work in progress still, but it is hard because, it's sort of like 3 days off of class and then you're almost like starting over again, which sounds ridiculous because a lot of it is, muscle memory and stored in your body, and that's not actually true, but it is like a whole mental game that I play. And so always finding balance and trying to not get burnt out. But I think once I finally get like the rest of my hours done and I submit my applications, I'm gonna maybe try to just take some time off. I really want to travel. Like, there's just other things I want to do that I've never had time or space to do so. So just
where do you want to go?
I really want to go to Europe.
Okay.
Like, I mean, all over.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been anywhere other than kind of across the states. Like, I've traveled a bunch. Even, there's still more maybe to see there, but I'm itching to go, like, abroad in some sense. So trying to, figure all that out.
I'm the same. I've only been mostly in different states, and I've been to Canada and Mexico, but I haven't been
to Mexico,
outside
but
of that.
that's it.
So interesting. So same. I know I want to travel at some point too. Do you think if you do that you'll dance in those places?
Yes,
I
that's
want to
my
do that.
goal because I have so many friends that have been traveling and they always are posting and taking open class. And I'm like, God, I never thought about that, but I've also never had the experience to go travel. So I'm definitely going to bring all my ballet stuff but also enjoy traveling in the city and eat good food and, do things like that. But yes, I think that's part of the experience is going to take class in another culture and another language and just see like how that translates and stuff. So
I think that would be such a fun challenge. Okay, so let's talk about how you're in Chasen's company, the Realm company. Wait, am I saying, is that the full title? Okay.
The Realm.
Let's make sure I say it right.
Changed. It's always, like, we called it originally TRC. Like, it was always TRC, but now we've kind of rebranded into the Realm.
Okay.
So it's like the Realm company, but I feel like I hear the Realm more. So the Realm, yes.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
No.
I was like, wait, I was about to say TRC, and then I was like, what is TRC? Why is that in my head? I was like, oh, the Realm company. Okay, I'm like, okay. So the Realm, that's what we're doing right now. So what's that? So you've been in that for...
Was it 4 or 5 years?
Oh, I was going to say 2 years, 4 or 5 years.
But it hasn't been established that long. So I've been working with him about 4 or 5 years. But the Realm has really uplifted, I think, in the last, couple years.
Okay.
And it's been fabulous. I met Chasen actually here at Westside during the pandemic when Westside still had outdoor space.
Oh, wow.
And I was still kind of in the in-between of, I was still in school. I was still doing my master's program, but I was home a lot because everything went remote. My parents were like, you should just come home. My brother and I did kind of come back and forth for a little bit. So I was here taking class, and that's how we met and just kind of connected. And he was definitely in the process at that time of what is Realm? Just kind of getting dancers together who were available, and let's just start doing some choreography and going out and branching to different places to perform stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool for me to see the progression, the start of that to where we are now, because it's huge.
Yeah.
It's so transformative, and I'm so grateful to have been along for this whole journey. And I absolutely love it. It's something I look forward to every week. It's really challenged me as my own artist, my own person, and it's just been such a positive experience for me that I felt like I kind of had holes in my other dancing parts of my life and career of just kind of always fighting that battle in some ways, but this has just been such a nurturing environment for me, and I love all the people he brings in, and it's really fun and great to just kind of be surrounded by that, thirst for growth and things like that. So I've really, really enjoyed it.
That's so good. That's so great to hear that it's such a fun environment and challenging, and that you were a part of it since the inception of it, and just him bringing it together. That's such a cool history to hear.
It's really special. Yeah.
When you talk about holes in the past with dance, what do you mean by that exactly? Or when you say you were kind of fighting in the past, what does that kind of mean?
Yeah, I feel growing up never felt that way. I got on the professional track when I was 8, and from there I just stuck with it. I sort of in high school went through, I think probably what everybody does is a normal experience of, is this really going to be the rest of my life? How am I going to make money dancing? I was just sort of going through all of those questions. So I did actually stop for about a year in high school.
Okay.
Later, shortly realized how miserable I was without it and just thought, I'm going to get back in touch with this and just get myself back together. But that's where I think the challenges started for me a little bit of just kind of going through my own identity, kind of questioning and sort of, getting myself back in shape and kind of comparing myself, and then it just sort of launched into that sort of thing. And then, maybe not having the most motivating people in my circle at that time, or, just even places that I was training in, and just kind of ran into some difficulties there of just kind of feeling I wasn't, maybe good enough for this or that to really continue to pursue that field. So definitely was hard for a little while, but then I kind of just kept going because I had to just keep telling myself, well, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to get myself back together, and I'm going to do this thing. So it wasn't really till I got to college that I felt like finally settled, like the dust had settled a little bit, and I felt like that's where I belonged, and I was again around really good people at that point. And then from there, it's just really blossomed into, like, I definitely don't feel that way anymore. But at one point, it was a little rocky for me of just kind of like, I want to do this, but I'm getting so much like kind of criticism against me that it was hard to kind of keep going. But all that to say, definitely in a good place now, and college was an amazing experience for me as well. So.
And where did you go to school?
I went to the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley.
Nice. And where did you grow up?
So, I'm born and like raised mostly on the East Coast in New York, but my family did move a lot. So I've kind of bounced from, we lived in New York mainly, but then I also spent a brief time in Rhode Island. We lived in Massachusetts for a year. We ended up in Florida for 3 years. Then we went back to New York. And then we finally ventured out to California early 2000s.
And were you always able to find, was it pretty easy every place you lived to find good dance studios and everything?
100%.
That's amazing.
It was actually, shout out to my family, honestly, my parents, because once it became evident that I was really serious about ballet, everywhere we moved, they made it a point that we have to do our research. We have to find the best ballet schools for her training. I had to go to like a Boston Ballet type place, which I started at when I was 8. So that's the kind of level that we were always looking for. So fortunately, I was always able to go to a school like that along the way, even though it was kind of like sporadic and I was bouncing around. Like I still at least was in a good place to keep up with the consistency of my training.
Yeah. What would you say was your favorite growing up? What would you say was your favorite outside of LA once you finally came here? What would you say was your favorite place to train?
Joffrey Ballet in New York.
Okay.
That's where I loved it there so much. My instructors, my friends, and just I loved living in the city. I was such a free-spirited kid. I'd be all over New York, which sounds ridiculous because honestly the times that I've gone back to travel, I'm so like claustrophobic feeling and almost scared because I don't know my way around anymore. But as a kid, I'd be out like by myself, getting on the train, going here, going there. I'd go from school to ballet every day, then go home. Just totally different world, like totally different experience, but that definitely, I loved training there. I loved Boston Ballet, but I was very young when I went there. So I actually, over the summer, I was back in Boston because my brother graduated, so I did go take open class at like my old studio, and I did remember it, but I can't say I have like too many of my memories there, like Joffrey. Another place actually was Festival Ballet in Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island, which actually is now Ballet RI. They've rebranded because direction has changed and things like that. So that was another really great place for me growing up. So those were my two, I'd say, like solid training places that I like really enjoyed and still keep in touch with people there.
That's so cool. In high school, me and my friend had this dream to go take a vacation in Rhode Island. I don't know why. Because the state's so small. And we saw pictures and thought it looked really pretty.
It is beautiful. It's small. It's a small state, but it's gorgeous. If you go to Providence, there's kind of a lot of cute little, like, New England feel style places, and I love that. I think if you haven't been to Boston either, you would really
I have been to Boston
to
once when I was younger, actually in high school. on a choir tour. I did that. And I also grew up in Illinois, so we weren't as far away, but yeah, we did a choir tour once a year, and we would go different places. So we went to New York and Boston, but I would like to go to Rhode Island. But that's really cool to hear there's a good ballet studio there, or for kids anyways. That's cool. And so when you very first went to did you start dancing before you were 8?
I did. But it wasn't serious really at that point. And honestly, it wasn't really my choice. Like, from what I remember is I had a neighbor who was like really, or a friend, probably both of that combined, who was going to like creative movement classes, and just sort of, I think it was also like a thing my mom was like, oh, this will keep her busy while I'm at work, and let's just like ship her over there and she'll dance. And I just kept wanting to go back. It was sort of like, even just that first experience, I loved it. I wanted to stay with it. And then we kind of, I think they could just see that, okay, this might actually really be a thing she wants to pursue here. So they paid more attention to that. And then when I was 8, though, we got me on the professional track. But I'll have to refresh my memory talking to my mom about like kind of more of how that started before 8, but I know I was doing just a lot of like creative movement, some ballet classes, but nothing too serious yet until maybe closer to 8.
Yeah. And so after you were 8, or maybe a few years after that, were you pretty sure that you're like, this is what I'm going to do for my life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved it so much. I mean, it's so challenging, as you know, but there's something about that just makes you want to keep going back and like perfecting it. Yeah. So I got really into it. Plus, I also just felt so good, like emotionally, physically, from being able to get a good sweat, and it just does something to you in that sense that I loved it so much, and I was really serious about it. I went to a summer program every summer, except for maybe 1 or 2 summers when I was older, but that was my life. Like, ballet was everything and still is everything.
And you have a brother. Do you have any other siblings?
I do.
Do any of them do dance?
No. Okay. Closest to my brother, Taylor.
Okay. And were your siblings and family, did they always love like seeing you perform, or did they always support you? Like,
oh yeah, my dad was a musician, so very overall kind of artistic family. My mom is an attorney, but she has always had a love for the arts and does have a degree in philosophy and other things, so very, very supportive. And my brother went into music too, so yeah, it was almost weird if we wanted to do anything other than our creative element, because they just be like, are you sure? We know what you're interested in. So 100%, even for him, putting him into like really good music schools. And, he and I did overlap at Berkeley for some time. And so that was really, really fun, and do actually work together in Realm. So it's just, everything's come really full circle.
Yeah, so I just realized by stalking Melissa's Instagram yesterday. I mean, I look at her Instagram anyways, but I always do like a deep dive before the podcast, and I realized that her brother is Taylor Briggs, who is the composer for their company, The Realm, and I knew who he was, but I never thought about his last name, and I did not realize that they were siblings. And so literally on the walk to my car, Melissa was explaining how he ended up becoming like the composer for them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. What a musically talented family that you have. That's really, really neat. And so cool that you guys can be close like that, and even kind of went to school together for a little bit and everything.
It's been really special. I feel like not many people maybe have that, and so I definitely don't take it for granted.
Yeah, it's very cool. Are you able to talk at all about your latest project with the company, or is that like a hush thing?
This is a hush thing for right now, but we will be releasing something about it come around Halloween. So just kind of keep your eyes peeled. Nice. But yes, at the moment, I think I'd probably, Jason will say no, don't say anything. So just, there's something special coming very soon, and we're all super excited about it. So we'll hear more closer to the end of the month.
Okay, yeah, they've been posting some things on Instagram. Looks pretty cool, so I'm definitely excited. And when I saw Melissa in the last performance, she just did amazing. Like, I always see you in class, and I've seen you in other performances, and you always are great. But for some reason, this last performance you did with SoCal Ballet, and it was just, your performance was so mesmerizing, and it was just, the technique was so good, but also just so much emotion, and I just absolutely loved watching it and was just so, like, inspired by you. And, like, you work so hard, and it's so cool to see the production, the result of that, which I think that's a reason that probably everybody in dance likes dance, is it's just, like, exercise is fun. A lot of people like exercise, but what's cool about dance is, like, you see, like, this cool result of it.
Yeah.
Like, exercise, I guess you see a result as well.
Sure,
like, oh, your body's getting more in shape. But to see this, like, artistic result of, like, a story or just a beautiful, like, display of performance, like, it's just, like, all worth it. I don't know. To me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just see it and I'm like, oh, she works so hard, and then look at what she can do. You know, it's so cool.
Well, thank you for your kind words. That performance actually was, like, one of the most elevated performances I've ever performed in my career. That was equally as challenging as it was rewarding, because it really put me up to the plate, where I just, you know, because it was mostly, well, we did have 2 casts. So one cast, actually, you came to see me doing the partnering, though, which I was, like, so happy about. But the other show I did do the core work, but being in the partnering, I had to really get into a different role, like a different mode, and that came with so much openness and vulnerability, and that is still an area that I'm continuing to strengthen as an artist and as an individual, and just how to really emote through my body and my emotions without verbally saying it. So that was definitely, like, I was on such a high from that show, because it challenged me in so many amazing ways, and was very hard at the same time, because I felt not pressured, you know, but I was so excited to step up to the plate and, you know, kind of be in that moment and in that role position with the partnering that I, you know, have just been kind of wanting so much more of in my dance career, that it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I loved every part of that process. The rehearsal, you know, working with my partner was amazing. You know, Chasen's choreography is honestly one of the, like, my most favorite things to do, and the more I work with him, the more I actually, like, come to know kind of his movement style and patterns anyway, that it's easy to pick things up. So it's just that, but that show in particular was, like,
it was so good.
It was just so good.
It was amazing.
It just, yeah, and I was so overwhelmed in such a great way by all the remarks after that show, because it's different when you're in the moment and doing it yourself, but then what are people seeing? And that's what I was kind of not worried about, but, you know, curious of, is it coming across in the way that I might be experiencing it and moving it? And, you know, because I think about that too. Obviously, I have to tap into that as a movement therapist when I'm, like, in that place. Is this, like, you know, translating in that way?
Yeah. And had you done much partnering before that? I mean, I'm sure you did, but, like, is that something you continuously train in, or you trained a lot as when you were younger, or?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I did a lot of partnering growing up, because you just, it's part of kind of, like, every summer program, especially that you go to. You do jazz, you do modern, you do partnering, like that, and you do variations. Like, you kind of get hit with a bit of everything. And then I, in college, did a lot of partnering as well. But then kind of after that, little sprinkles of it with Realm, or, you know, anything else that I may have been doing, but not like that.
Yeah.
Not like that. So I was also, you know, eager to get back into that kind of stage in my dancing, because it's so easy to feel like you lose something if you're not practicing it. So I was very much like, yes, put me in the partnering. And I was so excited. And yeah, so I'm hoping to do more of that too, because there is something, you know, I love doing all of it, honestly. But I like to be able to be that versatile and, like, put my different hats on and be able to just do a bit of everything.
Yeah. Did you know did you know the person you danced with before, or did you just meet him for that?
Just met him on the spot.
Nice. You're like, here we go. And so what would you say is the challenge of, I don't know, so partnering, I think, sounds really cool, but I'm like, I don't want to depend on anybody else. It just sounds like, I'm like, no, I just want to think about me, depend on myself. Like, obviously, you're generally always dancing with a group of people.
Sure.
But to dance that closely with someone, like, and, like, you have to lean on each other. I mean, obviously, you have to hold your own as well,
right.
but, like, there is a part of leaning on each other, and also, like, what if someone messes up something?
Yeah,
I would be scared.
Honestly, I think for me, in my experience, partnering is a little easier.
Oh, okay.
Because if it's especially just the two of you, if there's any little mix up or slip, like you can get through it without it being an obvious thing. But when you're in the core work and there's stuff off and stuff like that, I feel like it's actually more challenging for me to be in the core, even
It's
though
like more obvious.
yeah, it's like I think just more obvious of like everybody has to be on the same page. And I mean, we're pretty great about that. Like it's not something that I worry about, but that is something, in my experience is like the core. You practice the core forever because you have to get everybody on the same page. Whereas if it's just you and another person during partnering, it's just different. It's really different. But I will say the most challenging thing I think about partnering is just getting to know your partner and how they move and what their rhythms are, and being able to move cohesively together, because a lot of even the first rehearsals was just like, where do I need to be? Do I need to be on my leg more? Do I need to hold back more? Does he need to like be more here for me or back for me? So it was a lot of just like logistical reconfiguring of like where our bodies needed to be in space at like different moments in time in that choreography. But once you got comfortable with each other and you knew the choreography like really well and you weren't thinking about the steps, at that point, then it just flows. Because even I felt it like, in comparison to when we first had our first rehearsal to then that show day, it was like we just ran with it. Wow. And that's what was so beautiful about it.
I think what would be fun to do it with a partner is when you have such a good performance, you have someone to be so excited with versus just like, because I've had that experience kind of like with acting in the past where I kind of had a scene with someone something, and when it went so well, you have someone that you can like be excited with versus just being like, I did great. You're like, was it? You can just be like so elated with that person, which is kind of fun, I think.
Yeah, so. And we have that with everyone in the realm. Like, I mean, people do kind of change, but even still, like, it's just always such a supportive, positive working atmosphere where, like, no matter who you're dancing with, like, everybody's, like, uplifting each other and there for each other. But, yeah, there is something, like, special, too, though, about having a partner, because you can kind of, like, push each other, or motivate each other, or, like, cheer each other on for moments, and it's really fun. But overall, like, we do that for everybody.
Yeah. That's so cool. So this is a random question, but... So you really only had, like, 1 year off of dance or something in high school?
Yeah.
What did you find yourself doing with your time when you weren't dancing? Did it feel like you had all this time?
It felt like I had all this time and really nothing to do. I mean, it was sort of great, like, for the first week or two, and then I just got so bored and just was trying to do other forms of exercise that I just really knew wasn't me, and I was just getting so unhappy. And it honestly just put a lot of things into perspective of, like, kind of who I surrounded myself with at that time, like, what I was doing if I wasn't dancing, and it just actually brought me so much closer to ballet, having that space, because then I really knew, like, okay, I will never take time off again, like, unless, I'm injured and things happen, but this is something I've committed really the rest of my life to as long as I can. And I even, like, after a professional career, I'm still going to be over here taking class or wherever taking classes, an older adult. Like, it's going to be a part of my life, indefinitely.
Yeah. Maybe you needed that year to just, like, really confirm, like, this is definitely, I don't want to take any other breaks. Have another random question. Would you ever consider taking a hip-hop class?
I have taken hip-hop. And, wow, I'd say, because I've gone through college and learning other styles and forms of music, I'm way more comfortable taking hip-hop now.
Okay.
But before then, I briefly lived in San Diego, actually, so this is where I think about when was the last time I even took a hip-hop class. But, like, before I went to school and things, and I felt, it was fine. I got through it, but I felt so out of my element, and it's just, it's hard to go from the ballet technique and training to just letting all of that go. Like, literally letting all of that go and finding other ways to articulate and move your body. And, I mean, I'm so intrigued and fascinated by hip-hop. And I have taken hip-hop since, like, I went to school and things. And I feel like I went somewhere No, it was a contemporary class, but I did take a hip hop class like within the last few years, and it was really fun. Like I'm very open to it. I think it's fun. Again, you know, like I'm open to like maybe once a month I just need to go and groove somewhere. Like doesn't matter again about what it looks like or anything, but just the feeling, you know, of like just being free and having fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just like when I was thinking of questions for you, I was like, I wonder if she's ever taken a hip hop class. That'll be so funny.
And that, believe it or not, is not what I'm terrified of.
Okay.
Classes.
What are you terrified of?
I'm a little scared of improv.
Oh, that's so
and I've
fascinating.
always been that way, like my whole life.
Okay.
But that's kind of part of what I said earlier about I'm still working on exploring my vulnerability when I dance and just like letting, because I am very stoic. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, you know, I want to emote a little more. So that is something I'm like mindful of. But improv in college freaked me out. Although when it was time for me to do something, I was like so engaged and present in doing it, but the thought of it terrified me. And I had that experience when I was in middle school too, because I went to a performing arts school at that time as well, and I just like froze in fear. So it's still something I'm navigating, but I'm better at it, like more so today, but it still is something that like this is definitely like I'm still coming out of my shell when it comes to like improvisation.
That's like I used to really not like improv, especially in classes. I mean, if I'm just in my room by myself, maybe, but even that I was like not that into it. I want someone to tell me exactly what to do.
Right.
But the past few months, even a lot of my regular classes do a lot of improv, where it's like half the class time, and a lot of it's very directed, so there's prompts and things. So actually it's been really helping me come out of my shell in that way. But in that same vein, have you ever choreographed anything?
I have. Honestly, I had to do a ton of things, and I see why, because it makes sense. But in college also we had dance composition class, which was literally choreography. Like we had to choreograph pieces on our classmates, and you know, that's another area that I would say, like, I enjoy doing. Sometimes it's not where my creative juices come from, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not, like, I'm going to be a choreographer. You know, I can do it. Like, I can do little kid recital choreography, you know, for Nutcracker, like, whatever. But when it comes to, like, full-blown stuff like, you know, Chasen does, that's not me. I've never been that, like, creative in that sense of, like, you know, like, in that way. But actually, the piece I did create came out pretty well.
Nice.
Wasn't, you know, like a work of art, but it wasn't totally garbage either. So, yeah, I'd say that was the only, like, professional way that I've had to choreograph before. Otherwise, it's just been through teaching students. And, you know, we have performances coming up, and they'll do, like, a little thing. But yeah, you
get most of your energy from someone else being like,
yes, I like to be directed.
Which I get that. I like that too. And I don't think everyone is supposed to be a choreographer, but I'm always just curious, you know, but I think, some people really want to be directed, and I really I like doing that too. I had a question I was going to ask you. We're wrapping up towards the end here, but what was I going to ask you? Oh, I was going to ask you, so you said you're sort of starting to make Sundays your rest day a little bit.
A little bit.
What is something you like to do that you're already doing, or maybe you haven't done it yet, but you envision yourself doing on your rest day? Like, what would you want to do on your rest day?
Well, see, this is something that I have conversations with my partner a lot, because we have two different ideas of what rest looks like, but also, you know, we're in totally different fields, so it's, you know, it's understandable. But my rest day still consists usually of going on a really long walk or going to Pilates, and, you know, this definitely comes up a lot where my partner will encourage, like, well, like, a rest day should just be rest. I don't know how to rest, so it's a challenge for me, but I'm getting better. I love making matcha. That's like that's actually part of my everyday routine, but particularly Sunday, I try to just no alarm, you know, unless we have Realm, because some Sundays we do have Realm, which I still love. But when we don't, I get to just kind of wake up on my own time, make my matcha, do my whole shake thing, my greens, all of that, and then just kind of leisurely get myself out of bed. And I still like to get some movement in my body. I'm not really one to just kind of, well, I guess it depends. I can be a homebody. I love to like sit and watch movies as well, but on your average day, I guess I'll still do a walk or like Pilates, and then maybe just kind of catch up on things, which sounds bad for a rest day, but you know, Sundays kind of also end up being one of those days that I have to prepare for the week.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Or I don't do anything. Like actually last Sunday I didn't do anything, and it was awesome. Like it kind of reset me, and I needed that because I don't
Nice.
have a lot of days where I can just quite literally do nothing.
Yeah.
So I am really trying to focus more on that.
Yeah, I have such a struggle with that too. Like I always have a list. So if I'm taking a break from my regular things, I'm like, oh good, I can get this list done. It's like, wait, is that really resting then? I don't know. But like what really counts as rest? I don't know. Like it gets a little tricky, and it's
It
like
does.
there was a time when I really tried to do nothing all day. I had a list, but I was like, no, Tracy, this is going to be your rest day. And it was hard for me because I was just like,
Yeah,
I need to get something done. I'm very task oriented. I remember
Same.
telling one of my friends, like, we were talking on the phone. She lives in another state. It was the end of the day, and I was like, I had such a good day. I got so much stuff done. And I was like telling her all the tasks I got done. And she just started laughing at me. She's like, you're such a funny person. Like that, you had such a good day because you were super productive. That's like not what everybody talks about when they talk about a good day.
Yeah,
was
this
like-
is a pretty much everyday occurrence and conversation with my boyfriend. It's always just the like, okay, but what are we doing to rest? You're doing like 100 things, and yet we don't know how to rest. So,
But do you guys have time to hang out with all the dancing you do and everything?
We do.
You find time for that.
We do. We find time because it is important for our relationship. But
Yeah.
it's also, you know, we both are actually in our own creative elements and work. And so he also knows the grind of, you know,
Yeah.
how busy things get.
Yeah.
So it works out really well because we have that, like, that thing in common, that common like thread basically of we're both in the arts, and we have really demanding schedules sometimes, and we have deadlines, and we have, you know, things and stuff. So we find ways to make it work, and it's
Yeah.
all good, and everything's been awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I have like two last questions. What is kind of your, or do you have one, like a specific goal at this point? Like when I look at your life, I'm like, looks like you have it all. Like you're in a great ballet company, you're starting your career also with the therapy, you're doing both. Both are excelling right now. Do you have sort of a grand vision for the future for yourself with all these passions? Or are you kind of just like, I'm living it up and we'll just see what opportunities come and we'll just keep going? Like, how do you kind of look at that?
I feel like I'm kind of on both sides of that, of like I'm, you know, on my way to getting my hours done. Our actual long-term goal would be to have a studio.
Okay.
I'd love to have a dance studio where I can have ballet and other forms of movement, but then also actually have movement therapy in the studio.
Cool.
So I want to really
That'd be awesome.
learn how to integrate that and
Yeah.
like blend that, because I think, you know, because I think about myself and, you know, other people growing up kind of in my generation of, we didn't have a lot of that in our training. If anything, it was really rigid and strict and just not very kind. And,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of those things. And so bringing that mindfulness in of teaching kids and people early of this is how you take care of your body
Wow,
while
that's
you
good.
do this, and just really like instilling that, because I think it's just going to transform how like long-term people dance anyway, like save their mental health, you know. So that's what I think about, is like for the future of like for generations to come, let's make something like that, because it's something that I wish I had growing
Yeah.
up. And I know when I talk about this with other people, like that would have been so great, but you know, it wasn't around then, and we didn't have
Yeah.
as much awareness, and things are always evolving and changing, so we just kind of have to accept that and move on. But that is a long-term goal. I'd say another goal is obviously all the things that Realm is doing and that we're branching out to do, you know, as a company. Like I know we're working on bringing in more theatrical elements in, and just like more movie type thing, you know, like we want to
Yeah.
be a company that can do it all.
Yeah.
That can do it all. Like we, again, also have many hats of a strong ballet cast, but then we can also act and like go out there and do other things. So that again is something, especially being in LA, you know, let's take advantage of all these other opportunities. And I think in general, I'm always looking for other ways to expand my artistry and my growth as, you know, an artist and dancer, and whatever other freelance things I can do, I'm out there looking for. And, you know, I'm a SAG member, so I'm also looking for other SAG things, you know, on my own. So just kind of always keeping my eyes out for any opportunity with Realm, you know, outside of Realm, just to stay busy and connected to this world. And
Yeah, I love all of that. And it's really cool about this studio with the therapy, because I was just thinking, like, a school has counselors to help people, and there are so many kids that just go to dance all the time who are really trying to make it in dance, and then they're just going from school to dance, or maybe they do school a different way, but yeah, where's the person that's helping them or spending time with them or helping them mentally? And so I absolutely love that idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, because I think that's important. We need to foster that for kids and people moving forward, because a lot of that people don't talk about, and I want to start bridging more of that gap of we need to have more like movement therapy elements. And it probably, I don't think I would make it therapy where we have to get all the like informed consent and confidentiality, business involved, but let's bring in movement like therapeutic style wellness groups. At least to start, because I still will have my own private clients on the side who actually, like, I would do all of those essential things with. But in a studio, I'd probably shape it more as, like, this is your wellness movement group. And we're going to work on, like, dance therapy elements and techniques. So that's something I'm figuring out, like, the ethics behind that, the legal things behind that, of, like, how could I do this, because there are some places. I have a good friend who works at Millennium, not here, but in the Vegas location, and she's doing, like, therapeutic movement groups.
Oh, cool.
But it's not therapy, quote unquote, even though you are bringing that lens in. So there are ways of, like, kind of going around that in some sense. So, because it can get heavy. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
Yeah. That's so cool. Well, I'm so excited to hear more about your vision and just get a little sneak peek into your life and what it's like and been like. So, Melissa, thank you so much just for taking time and for being a great excuse for me to come take Jason's class, which I always love, and it was such a blast.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for having me.
So yeah, well, we'll just keep watching your life online and seeing how it goes, and definitely want to be supportive, especially of all your vision with wellness and everything. That's amazing. So yeah,
thanks again,
Tracy. And thank you guys for
watching.
watching. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about Melissa Briggs, and please like and subscribe and follow, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.